Sup, Stoveminders? It's Tuesday, January 5th, 2021. Wow. New Year's, same shit. How the stove doing? It's cold. It's very cold. No actual moves of great importance to report, though I would stick around for the rumor roundup in a bit. So there's been a lot of chatter at the rumor mill. I have updates on a lot of names, and with all this news and speculation coming out, I like to think there's something on the horizon. In fact, there is some certainty with the horizon because on Thursday, a couple days from now, there's a deadline for the top Japanese posting right-handed pitcher Tomoyuki Sugano. The deadline for him to sign with an MLB team or return to Japan, where the Yomiuri Giants have a 4-year deal with, get this, 3 opt-outs ready for him. Sugano will most likely end up a San Francisco Giant, a Blue Jay, or a Red Sox. But how about the Mets? Not so, apparently. The Mets are not super interested in Sugano with their, quote, focus elsewhere. So Sugano watch almost over. But for now, let's go elsewhere to what's new on the transaction wire. As I said, not much, but I do have a 3-way trade to report between the Phillies, Dodgers, and Rays. Now, the centerpiece, quote, is left-handed relief pitcher Jose Alvarado, who's going to Philadelphia. Alvarado was previously on the Rays, and he was not one of the top choices in that loaded Rays bullpen. But the Phillies are in serious need of relief. Their crew converted just 44% of save opportunities last season, the second worst rate conversion in baseball behind only the Pirates, who were, of course, the worst team in baseball record-wise. So, hola, Alvarado. What does he bring to Philly? A high strikeout average, but a lot of walks as well. That said, he's kept his ERA and FIP down in 3s. And besides 2020, he's been good at keeping the ball in the yard. And if you look at his 2018 season, he was actually really good that year. On top of that, Alvarado is turning 26 next season, and he's controllable through 2023. So a fair move for Dave Dombrowski's first as a Phillies director, though we're still waiting for Domby to make a big splash in Philadelphia. What did the Phillies give up? Well, it was a lefty for a lefty. And the one leaving Philadelphia for Los Angeles, going to the Dodgers, is a guy named Garrett Cleavinger. Not Clevenger. He's heading to the Dodgers. He's almost 27 years old, from Lawrence, Kansas. Made his debut in 2020, skipping AAA. So Clevenger might slide into the back of the Dodgers bullpen next season or start in the minors. We shall see. And to complete the circle, the Dodgers sent cash considerations and first baseman Dylan Paulson to the Rays. He's a 23-year-old left-handed hitter who hasn't played above high A. Not much to say at a glance. Not a positional need for Tampa. Overall, a low-profile trade, but about time the Phillies did something. Speaking of relievers, the Minnesota Twins have signed right-handed relief pitcher Hansel Robles to a 1-year contract worth $2 million, just 2. Great to hear from the Twins after getting swept in the wildcard series by the Astros. They should be seeking reinforcements with the White Sox on the rise, but that's not how Minnesota does business. That said, I do like this pickup, despite how horrible Hansel Robles was in 2020. A lot of people were. It's a cheap deal, and it's for a guy who, for the most part, has been good. Robles is a 6-year vet. He was the Angels' closer in 2019 when he notched 23 of 27 saves while sporting ERAs and FIPS in the lower 2s. He also had a strong second half in 2018 after getting traded from the Mets to Anaheim. Overall, a career ERA and FIP around 4. Some long ball issues, but not that bad of a move, I'd say, especially since the Twins saw multiple relievers hit the free agent market. Matt Whistler and Trevor May have already found new homes, while Sergio Romo and Tyler Clippard are still available. Otherwise, the Twins will rely on Taylor Rogers to repeat in his closing role. Not an easy thing to do in this business, so it's good for them to add Hansel Robles, but the Twins still have a long way to go if they want to hold on to the AL Central crown. And for something completely irrelevant that I've somehow become invested in, the San Francisco Giants catching conundrum has deepened with the signing of Curt Casali to a 1-year deal worth $1.5 million, making Casali one of 4 catchers with Major League experience likely to be on the Giants' 40-man roster. Now, catcher is a specialized position, but I haven't seen a team stockpile backstops like this. Granted, top prospect Joey Bart and all-name team member Chadwick Tromp have minor league options left on their contracts, so Casali, who was non-tendered by the Reds, might be the opening day backup to Buster Posey, depending where he's at. Remember, Posey opted out of the 2020 season. He's had some injury troubles in the past, but he's making a lot of money. He's kind of the heart of that franchise. The Miami Marlins have come out of their room after months highlining off of the Kim Ng hire, and now Ng has some moves to her name. Left-handed pitcher Ross Detweiler on a 1-year contract worth $850,000 guaranteed, and a minor league deal for catcher Sandy Leone. Great. Yeah, anyway, and to smoothly segue into rumor roundup, the Marlins are interested in outfielder Adam Duvall, which would be an offensive improvement over free agent Matt Joyce in Miami's right field. Okay, just had to breeze through that because none of those moves are all that big. But how about those rumors? It's been juicy. First, Springer Watch. George Springer is one of the winter's top prizes. And while the Mets and Blue Jays have been mentioned around him for a while, it now seems that the teams from Queens and Toronto are the final bids for Mr. Springer. Problem is, the former Astro is asking for a $150 million contract, while known offers to date are somewhere between there and $100 million. So lots of tens of million dollars may form a gap between Springer and negotiating parties. And if you're wondering about length, well, the Jays reportedly gave the 31-year-old Springer a 5-year offer, though clearly well short of his salary expectations. Besides the fact that whoever gets Springer will have a great player, it seems that the odd team out between the Mets and Jays will become then the frontrunner for Trevor Bauer. And I was listening to a little bit of John Boy talking baseball, and they had Buster Olney on. It was a good interview. I liked it. Touched on some good things about, for instance, the state of the game as a product, how boring it is to watch compared to even like the 2000s, which I strongly agree with and I feel like hasn't been discussed enough. But anyway, Olney also mentioned how he thinks that the Jays are a very likely landing spot for Francisco Lindor. Well, it's going to take a lot to pry him away out of Cleveland. But those two teams, the Blue Jays and Mets, have also drawn connections to numerous free agents, and now you can add the Mets' interest in closer Brad Hand. A deal which would add great stability to a talented Mets pen. Meanwhile, the other top reliever on the market, Liam Hendriks, has had a meeting with the Blue Jays at their spring training facility. And to add to that, Jays have also met with Bauer recently. So high stakes and intrigue between two East Coast metropolises looking for respect. And I'll add to that, Hendriks has also has the White Sox and especially the Dodgers after him. More on the relief pitching market. Alex Colomé has his share of suitors, and while he might want to return to the up-and-coming White Sox, Colomé also has the Astros, Red Sox, Nationals, and Twins after his services. LeMahieu watch. Where's the machine going? It might be Los Angeles. Yeah, a lot of the talk has gone along LeMahieu and a potential reunion with the Yankees, though they seem to be quite apart in terms of money. Well, the Dodgers have LeMahieu on their radar, but they're not the only team, of course. DJ might also go to Washington, Toronto, and Queens, New York, all things considered. Now, allow me to reactivate Puig Watch. This was a disaster last summer after Puig failed to sign a contract going into spring training, and then COVID happened, and then summer camp began, and then Puig signed a contract with the Braves, the contract was pending a physical, and the next day he tested positive for COVID, and that was the end. Okay, so the teams interested in the wild horse Yasiel are the Red Sox, Yankees, Astros, Marlins, and Orioles. Some good destinations, some of which don't make as much sense. I mean, the Orioles have shown no signs of wanting to be competitive. They unceremoniously non-tendered one of their best players from last season in Hansel Robles. Likewise, the Red Sox kind of already have a Puig-type player in Hunter Renfroe, who they just signed. Big arm in right field with a big bat. Astros, I could be a little peeved if that happened because fuck the Astros. Though they are down two very important outfielders, so makes a lot of sense why they're in on Puig. The Marlins, that I think would be a great move. They were connected a lot last winter. Yasiel just screams Miami the way he plays. And the Marlins, an up-and-coming team, some good youth, but not any household names to, draw interest. I think Puig would do great down in South Florida. On the other hand, Puig and pinstripes. Okay, if you asked me like 5 years ago, I would hate this move. But now, knowing kind of where Puig is at as a player, just his antics would generate so much discussion, and with how put together and orderly that organization is, to have a wild card like Puig would definitely be something. Would he dye his hair? Like, is that allowed in the Yankees? I'm not really sure they even need an outfielder because, okay, you know what, Aaron Hicks, not great. Clint Frazier, give that guy an opportunity, but not exactly proven. And Aaron Judge has got, I guess, a bit of an injury history to maybe be a little worried about. So, yeah, look for that. Although the Yankees are also not spending a lot of money, or not looking to spend a lot of money this winter. So that may be a roadblock. Regardless, Puig is now under new agency. Trevor Bauer's agent / secret girlfriend, Rachel Luba. So we'll see if she can weasel Yasiel a deal. Excellent writing here on Stoveminders. What's holding up a Dodgers Justin Turner reunion? Because at the start of the offseason, I looked at that free agent and I was like, Turner, he's going to stay in LA. He's been their third baseman for the past 7 seasons. He means a lot to that organization. He's been a leader in the clubhouse, and he's continued to produce well into his 30s. However, while the Dodgers are looking to sign JT to a 2-year deal, Turner's asking for a 4-year contract, which for a guy who's 36 years old is a little uncommon. Yeah, that's Kind of reminds me of Nelson Cruz asking for a 2-year deal. You're a 41-year-old pure DH. Come on. Well, Turner's a little younger and he can do a little more, so we'll see how that comes together. If somehow the Dodgers and Turner can't broker a reunion, that's where the Dodgers DJ LeMahieu rumors start to become a little more heavy. Likewise, Dodgers are down Kike Hernandez, who, while a utility player, was, I think, their primary second baseman last year. So some holes in the infield. Speaking of infielders, and speaking of the West Coast, some follow-up from the Ha-seong Kim saga, the Korean middle infielder who was signed with the San Diego Padres. Before that, Kim was pining to go to the Blue Jays, where standout Korean starter Hyunjin Ryu throws baseballs and apparently had some role in trying to convince Kim to come to Canada. But Ha-seong's family preferred the West Coast for time zone differences so they could watch his games, understandably. And here's a kicker. The Padres guaranteed Kim a major league playing time in their deal while the Blue Jays did not. So that's how that happened. As for those Padres, they are not done yet despite pulling off 2 massive trades recently. They have one standout incumbent in free agency, and that is their old closer, Kirby Yates. Haven't heard much about him, but word is that Yates and the Padres have been discussing a reunion, which could be huge if Kirby ends up bouncing back from a rough 2020, giving San Diego a shutdown option like they had a few years ago. That would truly make them a scary squad. And now a word on the Cardinals. They have long had interest in trading for Diamondbacks outfielder David Peralta, a very underrated and affordable player who the D-backs have kept. Why? Well, I don't know. They have no idea what they're doing with that squad. If they want to rebuild, they should definitely try and trade Peralta. I think they could get a good return. And while he's a good player, the St. Louis outfield is a little bit crowded with Dexter Fowler, Harrison Bader, Lane Thomas, Tyler O'Neill, shout out Maple Ridge, and top prospect Dylan Carlson. So that would, I think if a trade went down, they would probably trade some of those young guys over to Zona. And this is kind of interesting. A couple of big league bats, and I mean big, are confirmed to be on their way across the Pacific Ocean, both to the Yomiuri Giants, which, if you may know, are kind of like the Yankees of the Nippon professional baseball. I'm talking about Eric Thames, going on a 1-year deal worth $1.2 million. Thames blazed a trail with his reinvention in the KBO. And also going to Yomiuri is Justin Smoak on a contract worth around $6 to $7 million. A huge deal for an American player going to Asia. But here's what's up. Both these guys are sluggers, and both are 34 years old, so gonna be a lot of home runs in the Tokyo Dome in 2021. And some retirement news. Phil Hughes hangs it up at the age of 34 after 12 years in the major leagues. Granted, Hughes hasn't pitched in over 2 years, but he leaves as a former All-Star, which he was with the Yankees in 2010, and is the AL leader in home runs allowed in 2015 with 29 long balls. For comparison, in 2019, there were 20 pitchers in all of baseball who gave up more than 29 home runs. Unjuice those balls, man. Fraud. And some positive news from league offices. Spring training camps are expected to start on time, meaning that that old talk about a May opening day might be bogus. And that's great for everyone who loves the baseball grind. Yeah. And to finish off, let's do a little Cubs casting. Well, Jed Hoyer faced the media after trading Yu Darvish and Victor Caratini. I touched on this a little bit in my previous rant-filled episode where I said it was audacious for Hoyer to say that the Darvish deal was not financially motivated. Well, it got sillier. He said, Hoyer, that he thinks they're going to be a really competitive team next year. Not with this trajectory, they're not. What are you talking about, Jed? Some positives coming out on the Cubs front with Caratini gone. They're looking at veteran catcher Jason Castro as a left-handed backup for Contreras. Castro is an excellent framer, so that would be nice, although he can't hit much. And as far as a reunion with John Lester, there's been little progress there per the latest news. So that concludes this quick, maybe not so quick as it is a light episode of the Stoveminders MLB offseason hot stove watching show. As I said, the stove's been cold, but with all these rumors surrounding a lot of the top players, I feel like something is imminent. And with Tomoyuki Sugano having until Thursday to decide where he's going to pitch next year, some good stuff to talk about. Everybody loves a Japanese pitcher, right? Could he be the next Yu Darvish, or will he be the next Daisuke Matsuzaka? Well, first we got to figure out where he's going. Where am I going? The bank. Goodbye.